Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, my name is Addie and this is the Knits by AJ Knitting podcast and this is episode 69. It's a bit chaotic here today. I hope you're all well. Hope you've had a lovely couple of weeks. It's actually been slightly longer than a couple of weeks because last week was just utter chaos and I tried to film this video on Friday and it just, to be honest, it all went wrong. And it's kind of all going wrong this morning as well. So we're just going to see how this goes really. So yeah. Hope you've all had a lovely couple of weeks. We're in September now. I'm not really sure where the year is going. It's all like, I feel like we've suddenly hit September very, very quickly. So yeah, the summer has passed. I always think of September as being like the start of autumn because my daughter goes back to school and it kind of just feels like the start of a new season because it's the start of a new term. So I'm calling it autumn now, even though we're not like officially in autumn, but you know, I feel like as knitters, we always tend to be a little bit further ahead because we like to prepare. So yes, apologies if my voice goes this morning. I have woken up with a little bit of cold. I also have a bit of a shoulder injury. So if I'm a bit stiff moving around, then that is why. I also have both dogs in here with me. One of them is under the desk and the other one is over there in his bed. So we shall see how that goes because my window cleaner is coming this morning. And so I wanted to keep an eye on them. Also, Biggs has been a little bit poorly and I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but we did have a bit of a sad diagnosis with Ruffles, my older dog, that he has got a bit of a heart condition. And so he's had a bit of an episode this morning, which we are managing, but I thought I'd keep them both in here so I can keep an eye on them. So apologies if there's a lot of interruptions because of dog shenanigans or the window cleaner or whatever. But whilst we're on the subject, I have moved location ever so slightly. I mean, it's the same room, but I've moved it around so that we've got a bit of a different backdrop. My yarn is now in the background. I'm not overly happy about the coats, but you know, this is my house. And so yeah, needs must when it comes to storage. But it means that I should be able to film a little bit more sort of easily because I've now got a desk in front of me so I can put things down and everything like that. But anyway, less waffle and more knitting content. So yeah, I have got 4 finished objects to talk about today and 3 whips. And I guess without any further waffle, let's get into it. So my first finished object is a fairly small object. If you are unaware, I am making ornaments for my daughter's advent calendar this year so that we can make her a little sort of interactive advent calendar so she can put an ornament on her tree every year instead of just getting a lot of chocolate because she does get enough chocolate in other advent calendars that are bought for her through like by other members of the family and everything. So I thought I'd do something a little bit different and, you know, use my skills as a knitter to do so. So I have made another ornament and this is the Knit in Public Day Ice Cream by KNITJOYZ. It's a free pattern available on Ravelry. I did make a couple of changes though. So I'm making all of my ornaments with scrap yarn. So I can't tell you what these yarns are. I'm pretty sure that the bottom yarn is like Peer Gynt or something like that from Santa's Garn. And the ice cream scoop is a boucle from The Lonely Knitter. It's a hand-dyed boucle, but I can't remember what any of the colorways are or anything. So yeah, this pattern is written for fingering weight yarn on 2mm needles, but I knit mine using DK weight yarn on 3mm needles. And I did make a slight change to like the cone. So I was running out of the brown yarn. And so you're supposed to do 2 rounds between the decreases for like the last couple of decreases before the end one. But I only did 1 round so that I could conserve as much yarn as possible. And I had about that much left. So it worked out quite nicely. And I managed to use up all that scrap yarn. So it's no longer sitting in my little scrap yarn box. But actually I quite like the shorter cone because otherwise I think it would just be a little bit too big in the DK. I think it would work perfectly in fingering, but I think it's kind of made everything balance a little bit better in the DK weight. The other modification I did is that in the pattern it's written so you knit the scoop. Well, actually you knit a little I-cord loop. I decided to omit that because I wanted the loop to be slightly bigger so that it could get over the branches of a tree. And it'd be a little bit easier for my 5-year-old to get onto the tree by herself. So I omitted the loop. I also opted to knit my ice cream cone and ice cream scoop separately instead of picking up stitches with the cone yarn at the bottom of the scoop and then knitting down, only because I found picking up stitches from the boucle really, really tricky. And so I just knit my 2 pieces separately and then seamed them together, and it seems to have worked perfectly fine. So yeah, that is my little ice cream scoop. And this took me about an hour to knit. I cast it on last night. I finished it last night. So yeah, like 1 hour to knit. And I used all scrap yarn and the pattern was free. So it's like a free project really. So that was my first finished object. My second finished object is a pair of socks. I've actually got 2 pairs of socks finished this week, which is like unheard of for me. I rarely finish 2 pairs like in the same podcast, but here we are. So these are the thermal stitch socks that I was making from Ravelry Notes by Ash of Smash Knits. She knit up a pair in the most beautiful avocado green colour. It's absolutely stunning. And I decided after seeing her pair that I needed to have a pair for myself because I thought the texture was just absolutely beautiful. So these are my thermal stitch socks, all finished, washed and blocked. And I knit mine up in Dinah's Home of Crafts Cashmere Merino Silk in the colour Pure Gold. Apologies if I'm looking down, I've got my notebook in front of me. It's quite nice to have it in front of me instead of sitting like miles away so I can actually see it. Anyway, so this is the yarn. I used about 70 grams for my pair of socks. I did knit the legs pretty long, so I've got about 30 grams left, so enough for me to use it as like a contrast heel, cuff and toe, or even to like use as colour work, like a contrast colour in colour work or something. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. I think at one point I was stressing that I was going to run out of yarn, and now that seems really silly, but you know, better to err on the side of caution, I suppose. So I used a 2.25mm needle for the main fabric of my sock, and I used a 2mm needle for my ribbing. I did 30 rounds of 2x2 rib, and then I did 20 pattern repeats for the leg. I used the heel, the short row heel from Stone Knits Charming Colourwork book. Charming Colourwork Socks book. Specifically the one from the Tiptoe Through the Tulips socks, because I've knit those socks before and I knew I liked that heel, but I'm pretty sure that the heel is the same in all of the sock patterns in that book that use a short row heel. But yeah, I used the 64 stitch heel instructions, but I omitted the first decrease to get a heel that would fit into these socks because I knit these on 64 stitches. And then I've just done the foot. I think I ended up with 19 pattern repeats on the foot, and then I've just done a wedge toe. And I absolutely love these. I think the depth in the hand-dyed pure gold colourway is really, really nice. There is some subtle variation in there, which I think kind of helps with the texture as well to give it a little bit more depth. And yeah, I'm just very, very happy with these. I cannot wait to be able to wear them. It's a little bit chilly now when I'm out in the mornings with the dog. I usually take the big dog in the mornings and then I take them both in the afternoon. And so it's just so nice to be out in that like crisp weather in the morning. And I think these are going to be really nice inside my boots, crunching through the leaves and everything. They just feel so soft and snuggly. And I hope that the silk is going to give them enough strength that they're going to be quite hard wearing as well, because there is no like nylon or anything in here. It is just a cashmere merino silk. But if they do start to show signs of wear, then I'm more than happy to just have them as house socks. But yeah, I think these are really, really lovely. I would definitely knit these again. The pattern was really easy to follow. It was like a 4-stitch repeat. So the thermal stitch pattern is essentially like 2 rows of stockinette and then 2 rows of 2x2 ribbing. So it's so easy to just get into a rhythm of it. And it was really easy to then place the heel into like a stockinette row as well, so that it was very easy to kind of work out where you were in the pattern, and easy to read as well, which is quite nice. So yeah, I will say the second sock did feel like it was a bit of a slog, but only because I chose to make the legs so long. I think if I was to make these again, I probably wouldn't make the leg quite so long. But, you know, it wasn't too bad. Once I got into the foot, everything really sped up because the bottom of the foot is stockinette instead of pattern. So yeah, I was only doing the pattern on the top needle instead of on both needles because I decided to use magic loop to knit these because I don't really like knitting ribbing on short circulars very much when I'm knitting socks. I don't mind it so much when I'm doing jumpers, as long as there's enough stitches on the needle, but I sometimes feel like I don't have enough stitches on the needle when I'm doing it with socks and I'm doing short circumference. Small circumference. So yeah, I opted to go for magic loop, which was a lot more comfortable for me. And it also made it easier to kind of see the top and bottom when I was doing the foot and not have to use a load of stitch markers and everything. So yeah, that is my thermal stitch socks. I cast these on July the 18th and I cast them off on August 20th. So these took me a grand total of 33 days. And cost-wise, the pattern was obviously free because I used Ash's Ravelry Notes. The yarn is £23 per skein. So I'd say that the grand total of this was about £23, but I do have yarn left over. So anything I use that for will kind of feel like a bit of like a free project. So yeah, that was finished object number 2. Oh, it's so nice to drink a cup of tea and not feel like you're overheating. This summer's just been a bit insane, really. Like 4 heat waves, all being well over like 30, some nearly at like, what was it, like 30, 35 degrees or something at some point, which the UK is just not built for. We are definitely built for like the colder weather. Like our houses don't have air conditioning. Even lots of shops don't have air conditioning, which is kind of insane. And lots of shops, like the air conditioning broke down because it was so hot. Either way, it was just very, very warm this summer, and I'm glad that the weather has now cooled down a little bit. We even had a load of rain and storms and everything. It felt very autumnal. I was very excited. Have like started my Gilmore Girls rewatch and everything. Yeah, absolutely loving it. But yes, anyway, back on subject. So my third finished object is the Cuff Club Volume 2 August charts by Summer Lee. If you're unfamiliar with this pattern, you essentially buy the pattern once, the Cuff Club Volume 2, and then you're sent a new chart for the cuff every month. Sometimes there's a bonus chart as well, but it works in the way that you get updated like a subscription service, but you're not paying for it every month like a subscription service, which is lovely. So yeah, this was the first month, and well, August was the first month, and I completed the chart. I haven't started September yet. I feel like I should, but I've got other things on the needles that I need to get going on. But anyway, I knit up size medium, and I used 2.25mm needles for the whole sock with this one, because as they have a cabled cuff, I was a bit concerned that the cables were going to make the rib too tight and I wasn't going to be able to get them over my heel. So I went for a 2.25mm needle for the cables instead of my usual 2mm for my ribbing. And I think it's worked out fine. They are a little bit looser, but actually I think if I had gone down to that 2mm, then they would have been too tight. So yeah, I'm not mad about it, and I don't think it's going to make them slip down or anything like too much anyway. So yeah, I'm very happy with how they turned out. The yarn that I used was the Lonely Knitter Luxe sock in the colourway Unhappy Darling. It was a sock set that came out for Halloween last year. It was based on the Addams Family, and this was the main skein, this lovely purple with bits of blue in there. And then this was the mini that came with it. And I really like how Laura makes her sock sets like really sort of, like she pulls from the main skein for the mini skein. I do like a good contrast mini with the main skein, but sometimes I find like they don't really, it's not that they don't work together, but there's no like correlation between the two. Whereas with this one, like they're not so close together that you're not going to be able to tell that it's a contrasting mini, but there are like bits of the mini skein colour in this skein. And I really like it when they do that, because it kind of just makes it feel more like a sock set than just a 100-gram skein with a 20-gram mini skein with it, if that makes any sense. And so, yeah, I think it worked really well for this sock set, and I think it's made these socks kind of feel a little bit more cohesive as well. So I opted not to do a contrast heel, mainly because I just couldn't be bothered with the ends. But actually, I think I really like this sort of contrast cuff and toe with the heel being the same colour as the rest of the sock. I think it just kind of makes it flow a little bit better, especially when you're doing a heel flap and gusset, because it's not sort of like you know, when with a commercial sock, it's a bit like the short row heel, where it sort of is like a little wedge in the sock. Well, it's not like that with a heel flap and gusset, and sometimes I think it can look a little bit odd in a contrast. Not always, but sometimes I think it's nice to just have something a little bit different. And I don't have any that have the heel in the same colour as the main colour and then just contrast heels and toes. So yeah, it was quite nice doing it that way, and it made for less ends, because there were a hell of a lot of ends in my next finished object, and so I wanted something that was going to be a little bit easier. Now, I really, really like these. I did the cuff to pattern. I did the amount of pattern repeats in the pattern, and it's just like a 2-stitch cable cross. Really easy to do without a cable needle. There are instructions in the pattern for that. And then I did 30, did I do 30 rounds? Yeah, I did 30 rounds for the legs. So they're a little bit shorter than I have done previously. Like, they're much shorter than these ones. And I really like that, actually. I did think that I wanted longer socks when I was knitting these, but actually when I am wearing like just leggings, or if I'm wearing shorts and my knitted socks and like my Birkenstocks or my trainers or something, I want them to be a little bit shorter, because I have very short legs, and sometimes I feel like when I have a long sock, unless I sort of roll it down so it's a bit more slouchy, they kind of cut my leg at a weird point and make my legs look even shorter. And so I like the shorter socks, because they don't cut my leg in like that spot that makes them look shorter. It sort of makes them look in proportion still. I don't know, does anybody else have this problem? Like, it's probably like a psychological thing. Nobody else would notice it, but I feel like they make my legs look shorter if my socks are too long. But yeah, maybe it is just me. But yeah, I like the slightly shorter sock. They still fit in my shoes perfectly well. They don't fall down or anything. So yeah, I think I will just carry on doing them this length for a little while until I change my mind again. But yeah, it was really, really fun doing a little bit of cables, and then having a nice stockinette sock just to knit through whilst we were out and about and everything, and doing a lot of waiting around. My daughter has now started swimming, so I think I'll find that these not colourwork, that was last year, these Cuff Club socks will be really great for when I'm waiting for her to finish swimming, because there's like a small project that I can just put in my bag and then knit on without looking, so I can still watch her lesson. So yeah, I'm going to try and kind of keep up as much as I can with them, with also being able to knit other socks at the same time. But I like that there's like no pressure to knit them when they come out. Like there was a couple of the Colourwork Cuff Club last year that I didn't manage to get around to, but I might knit up this year. Like especially the Christmas ones that came out in December and everything, I might do those this year. But yeah, I really like that there's texture involved. I like that it's different enough that it felt worth it to buy the pattern again. And yeah, I really like a Summer Lee pattern. Like, she's one of my favourite sock designers. And so, I mean, there was no way I wasn't going to join the Cuff Club this year, even if I don't keep up with all of them. So yeah, those are my Cuff Club socks for the month of August, and I cast these on the 5th of August and I cast them off on the 26th of August, so they were relatively quick for a pair of socks for me recently, and so they took me a grand total of 21 days to knit. And cost wise, the Cuff Club for the entire year, I bought it on the discount, so it was about £11. I think the price has increased ever so slightly now, but it's still really cost effective for the amount of patterns that you get. So yeah, I paid £11 for the pattern, I paid £23 for the sock set. So my total for those socks was £34. So also not too shabby for a pair of hand-dyed socks. And I do have a fair amount of yarn left over. I think I only used about 50 grams of yarn in the whole set of socks. So I've got a fair bit left over for another pair of socks in the future. Just a moment for the fact that this dog has fallen out of his bed. Okay, so my fourth finished object and my final finished object for this week. I feel like it's been very heavy on the finished objects, but I kind of feel like because we came to the end of August, I was like finishing up a load of things because I do want to get my autumn making plans out for you guys fairly soon. I'm hoping to film it in the next couple of days, so it should be out fairly soon. Because yeah, I really want to get started on some new projects, but I wanted to finish up all the old ones first. So my big dog. So my final finished object for this week is what I am wearing, hence why I didn't mention it at the beginning of the video. And this is my Lake Stripe tee by OZETTA, the long sleeve version. And I knit this up in Woolly Knit Merino 4-ply in the colours Mulhaken, Oatmeal and Medula Green. So this was my main colour. This is all that I have left. And this is my contrast colour. So I have a fair bit of this left. So I think I will be able to make something else out of that yarn as well, like I was hoping to. I used a 3.25mm needle for all of my main fabric, and then I used a 2.75mm needle for all of my ribbing. I made a couple of alterations in the fact that I made my ribbing much longer, so I have 5 centimeters of ribbing across the whole jumper. I have a double folded neckband, and I added a contrast bind off to all of the ribbing as well. And I changed all the ribbing from 1x1 half twisted rib to just standard 1x1 ribbing because I don't really like knitting half twisted rib very much, and I much prefer a standard 1x1 rib. There are now a multitude of different edging options in this pattern, as well as different stripe options and different sleeve lengths, because if you watched last episode, then you will know that I was waiting for an update for this pattern to add in the long sleeve instructions, and obviously that did get added in, and I pretty much like monogamously knit on this once that update came in so that I could get it finished. But yeah, it's now got a lot of different options in there, so it's a really cost-effective pattern because I think you could get like 4 or 5 different garments out of this that all look pretty much like completely different but are from the same pattern, just by using different stripe patterns, different sleeve lengths or different finishing options. So yeah, and I think it is a really well-fitting pattern. It's really, really well written. Like with all of OZETTA's patterns, they're all very clear. There's loads of video support. Like there's loads of little notes in there that are a little bit like that are just really helpful, especially for like beginner knitters, I think. So yeah, it's a saddle shoulder fingering weight. It's supposed to be a long sleeve tee, but I knit size 3 instead of size 1 to get a more oversized fit so I could wear this as a jumper. And I think that has worked out. I didn't get as much ease as I was anticipating, and I think that's because of my gauge. I'm pretty sure that I tightened up when I was knitting the body compared to my swatch, but actually I've still got like 25 centimeters of positive ease in this. So I'm not mad about it. I think it fits really nicely. I can still get like my large t-shirts on underneath it. The sleeves are a really nice like tapered sleeve. They've got some decreases going all the way down. And they're a really nice length as well. So yeah, I think even though my gauge was not spot on, I think I've still got the garment that I was looking for. So I ended up using, I think it was like 250 grams. I pretty much used all of the main colour. Like I say, this is all I have left of the 200 gram hank. And I feel like I used almost like next to nothing of the contrast colour. I should have brought up my scales so I could weigh this because yeah, these hanks come in, they're 200-gram hanks. So you get a lot of yardage in there. And I obviously used the majority of one. The dog is now snoring underneath my chair. I apologise if you can hear that. So yeah, I used the majority of one and then like barely anything of the other one for the contrast colour. So I think I could definitely get 2 garments out of these hanks. They're also on sale at the moment. So I will leave the link, like always, down in the description box with everything else that I mention in these videos. My dog snores like crazy. So yeah, like everything else that I mentioned in these videos, everything will be linked down in the description box if you want to go and check that out. I think they're like £12 for 200 grams at the moment. It's insane how cheap that is. So yeah, I am very, very happy with how this turned out. I don't think I could have asked for more from a fingering weight garment. It is exactly what I wanted. It's just warm enough for me to be able to wear out and about at the moment. I think it's going to be a really great layering piece. It's quite windproof despite the fact that it is fingering weight. The yarn is quite lofty. It's very loosely plied. It's like a 2-ply fingering weight. It's quite light on the fingering weight scale as well, but it blooms really, really well. So it's kind of filled in all of the gaps that there were in the knit fabric after I knit it. And yeah, I'm just really, really happy with it. I think the colours have worked really well together. The neckline has stretched out quite a bit. I did take some footage before I blocked it, so I'll put that in here. And I guess the joy of this setup is that I can now stand up and show it to you without having to like do B-roll afterwards. So I will stand up so that you can kind of see what it looks like on. I didn't make any modifications to the decreases for the sleeves. I just knit those to pattern and I think they worked out really, really well. I really like the shapes of these sleeves. I like that the ribbing is not too tight. There's still quite a lot of room in there, but it's not like a massive like gapey sleeve. But there's still like some ease in there over the arm as well. So, I mean, I guess take that with a pinch of salt in the fact that I knit size 3, and if I was choosing this pattern for myself, then I would have knit, like for myself to knit it to pattern, then I would have chosen a size 1. But I think that there would still be a fair amount of room in here, even if I was to knit size 1. There's not that many extra increases for the body, like for the underarm. So you still wouldn't have a huge amount of like extra fabric here. So you could definitely wear it as just a long sleeve tee instead of a jumper. So yeah, I think this is a really, really well-fitting pattern and I'm really, really happy with it. Apologies if the camera has moved. I had to change the battery. So yeah, it's kind of probably shifted that way a bit. But either way, I will stand up now and let you see what this looks like on. Oh. At what point did I get so old that I now make a noise when I stand up? Like, I don't know when that suddenly started to be a thing. But now I make noises when I stand up, which is kind of annoying. Okay, so yeah, this is what it looks like on. I think it's a really nice amount of ease. I think it's going to be, like I say, really easy to layer underneath my jackets and things. It almost feels like I am just wearing a long sleeve tee, but I do have a t-shirt on underneath this. And it doesn't feel bulky or anything. You know how sometimes when you're wearing like a slightly more fitted jumper, it can sometimes like pull the t-shirt up underneath your arms or sort of make it kind of cling to you in weird places. It doesn't do that at all. I'm very, very happy with the way that this is laying. And it is, like I say, really, really lightweight. I like how the shoulder sits with the saddle shoulder. I think it like creates a really nice slope over the shoulder. There are short rows in here as well to like bring the fabric down so you don't get that kind of weird like this bit of the sleeve being longer than this bit, so it doesn't sit like that. And it makes it lay a little bit flatter over the rest of the arm. There are so many different bits of short rows in this. Like it was like, oh, okay, and another lot of short rows and another lot. So yeah, if you're not a fan of short rows, then I wouldn't suggest this pattern for you. I did, like I say, lengthen the body of this. I can't remember how much by now, but I'll put it in my Ravelry notes. But, oh, actually, maybe I think I added 8 centimeters. plus another 2. So I think I added about 10 centimeters, so 4 inches of extra length to this. I do think I lost some length in blocking because I had to pin it quite vigorously to get it to the width that I wanted because of my gauge change. But it is sitting like just like, so my hip bones are here, like the top of my hip bone is here. So it's sitting like about 10 centimeters underneath my hip bones. It's at a nice point where it doesn't matter what trousers I'm going to wear, I'm not going to get a like gap. Ooh. Oh, I shouldn't have put things down there. It makes it very hard to get in and out of this chair. So yeah, there's not going to be a massive gap like between the bottom of my jumper and my trousers, but yeah, I think I probably would have preferred to get a little bit of extra length out of this, but I'm not sure how it's going to sort of settle in. It has only just been blocked. I've worn this a couple of times. It was warm over the weekend, so I couldn't wear it over the weekend. I wore it on Friday and I wore it today. So yeah, I'm going to give it a little bit of time to kind of settle in and to kind of think about how I like to wear it before I consider maybe lengthening it. I don't think I'm going to need to, but I will see kind of how it settles. Because sometimes I feel like they need a little bit of time to settle. After you've sort of washed and blocked them, because sometimes like they can bounce back a little bit. I don't know. I'm happy with how much the neckline has stretched out. I don't want it to stretch out anymore really, because you can already see like a bit of my t-shirt. My goodness, Ruffles, could you snore any louder? You can still see a bit of my t-shirt unless I really like tuck it away. That doesn't bother me too much. But I would like the option to kind of not be able to see the t-shirt underneath, because sometimes I'm not always wearing a t-shirt that like in a colour that goes with this jumper, and I'd like to just sort of not have it on show. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. I can just kind of pick and choose my t-shirts a little bit more cautiously. Ruffles, please. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with how this turned out. I would definitely recommend the pattern. I would also really recommend the yarn. It was really lovely to work with. It's very, very soft. Yeah, I would 100% recommend this if you are looking for a fingering weight merino, or even if you're looking for a merino to hold double. I think it would be really nice. And yeah, it wasn't splitty at all or anything. It was a really, really nice yarn to work with. So yeah, don't really have any negatives with this pattern or anything. Maybe a negative is the fact that I had to wait so long for the update to come out, but like I have it finished now and those sleeves really didn't take me very long. So yeah, don't really have any negatives, which is a nice feeling, to be honest. So I cast this on July the 5th. I cast it off on September the 4th. So this took me a grand total of 61 days to knit. Although I will caveat that with the fact that obviously I was waiting a couple of weeks for the sleeve update to come out. So yeah, I think it wouldn't have taken me quite so long had that update already been out. But you know, 61 days is still pretty good for a fingering weight oversized, like slightly oversized jumper. And cost-wise, the pattern cost me £5.94, so not that much at all. The yarn, all in all, for two 20-gram hanks of the merino was £24. So the grand total for this jumper was £29.94. So not too shabby, to be honest. I'm pretty sure that you can't really get a jumper for less than £30 in the shops now, so I am very happy with this. And so that brings me to the end of my whips. Not my whips. That brings me to the end of my finished objects, and now we're into whips. So I have 3 whips to talk about today. One of them though is just a bit of a like quick check-in. So you may recall that a couple of episodes ago I did say that I wanted to really knuckle down and get my Advent project from last year finished. I am knitting the Northeasterly blanket by SKEINANIGANS in the oh, I've dropped the ball of yarn. Where did it go? Ow, my shoulder. Oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah, so I'm knitting the SKEINANIGANS, no. And so I'm knitting this in the Daily Advent from last year from Skein and the Stitch, which was Alice in Wonderland themed. And I'm using her natural 4-ply base, which is a 100% non-superwash merino. It is so soft. Like, it's hard to believe that it's not a superwash merino because it's so soft. But yeah, it's absolutely wonderful. I am so glad that I have another project on the needles that is on pause at the moment that uses this yarn as well, because it is just an absolute joy. It is the most beautiful yarn. and Jess's colours are always absolutely stunning. So this is in a real tangle, which is unfortunate, but I just wanted to do a quick check-in because I have finished another strip of the Advent. So I'm knitting this in, so the Advent is a fade, but I'm knitting it sort of like days 1 to 12 in one strip, and then I'm turning around and going back the other way on days 13 to 24, and then I'm going from day 24 to day 13, and then day 12 to day 1 again. So I've just done the 5th strip, so that was going from day 1 to day 12 again, and I have now started the 6th one, which is going from day 13 to day 24 again. So this is the end that I started at with day 1, so this is where I started, and then I was here last time I showed this to you, so now it's getting blown out by the window. I apologise. So yeah, I've done all of these and worked all the way through the greens and the blues again, into the purples, and then into the pinks, and so then there is the end, and then I've started coming back the other way, and I've done day 13 and I'm into day 14. So yeah, I can now move my marker, and I probably won't show this again until I've finished the 6th strip. So I've done the whole Advent all the way through. So this is the 3rd time I'm going through the Advent, and then the 4th time I'm not sure how far I'm going to get, because I weighed a couple of my yarns like from the first couple of colours, and I only have like 2 grams left, so I may only get 7 runs, like 7 strips instead of 8, but not the end of the world. I just want to be able to say that I've like worked through the entire Advent, and this blanket doesn't really need to be massively wide because I'm just using it as a lap blanket on the sofa. So yeah, I'll be happy with whatever I get out of it. I'm not going to beat myself up about potentially not having the length of, like the width of blanket that I expected at this point, because there's no way that I'm going to rip this back and change it. I'll just be happy with whatever I get. So yeah, I'm very excited to actually have this for autumn winter, because it is so lovely and squishy and warm. Where I've been working with it and like had it on me, it's just going to be such a wonderful blanket, and I just can't wait for it. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. So I cast this on December the 1st, and so it's currently been on my needles for 278 days. But I'm making good progress, and hopefully I'm on track to potentially actually having this done before I start my Advent projects for this year. So yeah, wish me luck with that, and I will check in again when I get to the end of the next strip. Okay, so whip number 2 is a new pair of socks, and this is not a pair of socks for me, it's a pair of socks for my husband, who has requested more pairs of socks in his sock drawer. He absolutely loves hand knit socks. Like, he doesn't wear anything but hand knit socks now, so I feel quite bad that he doesn't have that many pairs and I have tons. So yeah, whenever he asks for a new pair, I am more than happy to just jump straight to it. So I'm making him a pair of like just vanilla socks. He prefers just a pair of vanilla socks. He likes them to just be easy to just chuck on. So I'm using some self-striping yarn that I picked up in Hobbycraft, which is like a local like big box craft store here in the UK. So this is the yarn. It's the Knitcraft The Perfect Pair in the colour Rust Stripe. It's a 75% wool, 25% nylon. It's definitely not a merino base. It's definitely a little bit more rustic than that. It feels pretty much the same as, what is it? West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. And actually, funnily enough, it was right next to the West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply in the shop, on the shelf. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's kind of like the same base as that. It's really nice to work with. It's very sort of tightly spun. And so it's not at all splitty or anything, especially when you're using such small needles. And yeah, it's just been really nice and easy to work with. It gives a really nice even texture. And yeah. Not really had any problems with it, to be honest. So like I said, this is a self-striping. It doesn't have a regular stripe. It's kind of got like smaller stripes and wider stripes. But actually I quite like it, to be honest. I like that it's not like completely even, because it means that like the stripes over the heel where I've done the gusset decreases don't look so odd, which I think sometimes they can do if you're doing a heel flap and gusset on a self-striping sock, because it's like one jarring bit where the stripes are different. But I think it just kind of helps them to like blend in a little bit better. So I'm using a 2 and a 2.25mm needle to do this. I've done 15 rounds of 2x1 rib on a 2mm needle for the ribbing, and then I changed to a 2.25 small circular to do the rest of the sock. And I've done 64 stitches. Me and my husband both wear socks that are knit on 64 stitches, but his are obviously a lot longer than mine. So yeah, I have done 15 rounds, like I say, for the rib. I then did 50 rounds for the leg, a heel flap and gusset, and then I'm now just working on the foot. I think I need about 80 rounds for the foot for my husband's socks, and I have currently done 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, nearly 70 rounds. So I'm very close to the toe on these. I'm hoping to have it finished fairly soon so I can cast on the second one, and then he will have a new pair. I really like the colours in this yarn. The one outlier is this brown. I'm not a massive fan of that, but as these aren't for me, I'm not overly fussed. He likes the colours, which is quite nice. I did worry about the amount of yellow, because yellow is really not a colour that he sort of goes for normally, but he said that the colour was absolutely fine. I really like the fact that I knit both of our socks on 64 stitches, so I can like just ask, would you wear these? And even if I get to like where I am now, I don't have to worry too much if he then turns around and said, actually, no, I'm not overly fussed, because I can just pull back a few rounds and like just put the toe in and have them as socks for me. So yeah, it's quite handy that. But luckily he does like these, and I will be gifting them to him once I have finished. So yeah, that is my progress on my vanilla socks. I'm very happy with how the heel turned out, with just like 2 colours in there, which was a complete fluke. I just put the heel in after 50 rounds, and it just so happened that it was like in the start of this green, and then it changed into the red. I'm not sure about how I'm going to do the colour management. I am thinking about winding off some of the yarn after I finish the toe if I'm not at the same point, so that these can match. But I'm not sure how effective I would actually manage to get that. So I might just cast on and just have them as socks that are like somewhat similar but are not completely matching. Because I feel like if you make them deliberately not match, then that's fine. Or if you make them match completely, that's fine. But it's if they're slightly off, it looks weird. I mean, not that it's really going to matter too much because they're socks. So yeah, I'm going to see how far I get in the stripe pattern. And if I'm quite close to where I was when I started these socks, then I will wind a little bit off. If it's like miles away, then I don't want to have loads of little random bits of yarn. So I'll just start where I am in the ball and just have 2 like semi-matching socks. I don't think it's really going to matter too much, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, that is how far I am in these socks, and hopefully I will have a little bit more progress to show you next time I show them. Hopefully I might even have them finished, because he does need new socks fairly quickly. So I cast those on August the 28th, and so they have currently been on my needles for 11 days. So not too shabby actually for 11 days work. Okay, so my final whip to talk about today is my Edale sweater, which is a test knit that I'm doing for Iris of HIRIS Makes. It's my only test knit of the year, I think, and well, it's my only test knit of the year so far, and I think, to be honest, it's going to be my only test knit of the year at all this year, which I'm quite happy about, to be honest. I like the fact that I've been able to like pick and choose what I want to knit. Is this in focus? Yeah. Sorry. So I am using 2 yarns held together, both from Phil Kalana. One is Saga, which is their 100% lamb's wool. It's a woolen spun yarn, so it's very, very like airy and lofty. And you get 300 meters per 50 grams in this. And so this is the color medium gray. And then I'm holding it with a strand of Filcolana Alva, which is a 100% alpaca. And this is in the color charcoal. And you get 175 meters per 25 grams of these. So yeah, I'm knitting up size 1. I was going to knit size 2, but the recommended ease for this pattern is between 12 and 25 centimeters of positive ease. And if I knit size 1, then I was going to get the recommended, like the top end of that recommended ease. And because it's a raglan and the yoke is quite deep, I had a conversation with Iris about, like the designer, about it, and decided that I was going to knit size 1 because I think size 2 would have drowned me a little bit. It would have given me 30 centimeters of positive ease, but because of the deep yoke, I think it was going to be too much. So I'm using a 4mm needle for my ribbing and a 5mm needle for my main fabric. And if you watched my last episode, you'll know that I was still in the swatching phase, and I was umming and ahhing about whether or not I was going to need to knit this on a 4.5mm needle. And I made a bit of a mistake when I was reading the pattern. I kind of read it very quickly, which needle sizes that I needed to try and swatch on. And I thought that the main fabric needle was a 4mm needle. It's not, it's a 5mm needle. So I knit 3 swatches when I only actually needed to knit 1, because I did get a gauge on the recommended needles. But it was nice to see what the fabric was like on various different needle sizes. And actually, I think it does work best on the 5mm needle. It's much more kind of like drapey and like pleasant to feel. It was very, very tight to knit on a 4mm needle. And the fabric feels quite dense because the Saga is woolen spun. It blooms a lot once it's been knit up. And so I think the larger needle just gives you a much nicer fabric. And I think it would be way too warm on a 4mm needle as well. So yeah, I'm using a 5mm needle, which is the recommended needle in the pattern. So yeah, last time I showed this, I was in the swatching phase. I have now done quite a lot of progress on this. So this is an all over stockinette raglan jumper with a high neck, but it's got these beautiful ribbing details that go all the way down so they flow from the neckline. So you do a tubular cast on, for which there is video support in the pattern. So yeah, you do a tubular cast on to start in 2x2 rib, and then you knit the collar, and then the ribbing continues down the body. And then you like start increasing for the sleeves, and they kind of like grow out of the ribbing like this. And then you split for sleeves, and the ribbing kind of continues around the sleeve and then down the body, and there's also a panel that goes down the sleeve as well. So it's really, really well thought out so that the ribbing just kind of flows all the way down in this like waterfall effect down the jumper. And then it's got a split hem at the bottom, which I haven't got to yet, which then the ribbing on the sides flows into. So it's like continuous ribbing all the way down with stockinette for like the main panel. But it's really, really well written. It's a really, really lovely pattern. All of Iris's notes and everything are really easy to read and follow. And yeah, I just really, really love her patterns. And also loads of little bits of detail have been added for fit. Like each size, like each group of sizes has its own instructions for the short rows, with the increases in there to make it fit as best as possible over the shoulder and the back, because you do some increases and then you do the short rows and then you do more increases for the yoke. So yeah, it's just really, really well thought out. And yeah, I'm really, really enjoying it. So I have done all of the neckband. I've then started the yoke and done the increases in the yoke. I've done the short rows. I've done more increases for the sleeves. And I have split for sleeves, and I've started the body. So I think I've done about 15 centimeters of the body. I can actually put this on and show you as well, because I conveniently put this on, try it on tubing last night so that I could actually put this on and show you. Okay, so this is what this is looking like on me so far. So the neckline is sitting pretty high, but this is a raglan, and you like start with the neckline. You don't pick up stitches and then knit the neckline afterwards. So I do believe that once I have got all of the body done, if I stand up and show you properly, oh, let's move the chair out of the way ever so slightly. So yeah, once I have done the rest of the body and put the sleeves on and washed and blocked it, I am pretty sure that this is going to sort of relax down and the neckline is going to come down, because I do also have like a little sort of weird bump happening like just on my collarbones. I'm not sure how well I'm going to be able to show this. I'm going to bump into this desk at every opportunity. So yeah, I've got a bit of a weird bump happening here, but I think that is also just because the ribbing needs to relax. Like obviously when you knit ribbing, it's quite tight and it's kind of like all scrunched in on itself. And then as soon as you wash and block it, it stretches out, which is what I think this really needs. So my current plan, as I am some way down the body, obviously I have a bit more knitting to go for the body. My current plan is to finish whichever one of these runs out first. I'm going to finish those and then I will put the stitches on hold and I will pick up for one of the sleeves and I will knit one of the sleeves. And then I think I want to block what I've got and see how it like relaxes out, because although I'll only have one sleeve, I'll get a bit of an idea of how much this is going to relax down, because I do think that it is going to come down quite a lot. I mean, I think it's still going to have a high neck, that's part of the design, but I don't think it's going to be like bunching too much. I don't think I've got a particularly small neck, like it's not I don't have a short neck. I think it is just because the yoke and everything just needs to come down a bit, and it's because it needs that extra weight from the sleeve and it needs the ribbing to like be less scrunched up, because I'm hoping that this is kind of showing. But yeah, you can see obviously like the ribbing here is not at its full potential and could definitely like come down a bit further and stretch out a bit further. And it's kind of stretching out more on the front than it is on the back at the moment, because obviously it's not blocked and there's a little bit more tension here because of like the shape of the shoulder. Also, I can't really move this shoulder very well at the moment because I've managed to injure myself. So yeah, it's definitely going to relax down and I think it is going to be a really gorgeous fit. This is going to be so warm and cozy. I did initially think that I was going to have a problem with the yarn and that it was going to be a little bit too itchy on me. But I think like now I'm not finding this to be at all itchy, or like I'm not having a problem with it at all. And I know that I don't have a problem with the Saga because I've used this before for my Ivy top by Iris Makes. Actually, it was another test. It was the first test knit I ever did for Iris. I used the Saga before for that, and I wear that next to skin no matter what the weather. I think the problem is the Alva, the 100% alpaca, and I think the issue that I was having is that when I tried this on before, the weather was a lot warmer and I was a lot warmer, and I think it was just making it feel a little bit prickly on my skin. Whereas today, I'm not finding it to be an issue at all. So I think when the weather does cool down, I think it's going to be absolutely fine. I think trying it on in like 25-degree heat was just a mistake. And that was why I was thinking, oh my goodness, have I knit this whole thing and realised that actually I can't wear this yarn next to skin and I've knit a high neck jumper. So yeah, I don't think that's really going to be an issue. I think it was just a weather thing. And realistically, I'm not going to be reaching for this jumper when it's 25-degree heat. And I do like the fact that because it's a neckline that I haven't picked up stitches for or anything, I have the option of folding it down and wearing it as like a slightly shorter turtleneck. And I think it still looks quite nice like this as well. So even if it doesn't come down, I can roll it down if I want to. Or if I'm like feeling too hot, then I have the option. And because of the tubular cast on as well, it's pretty much reversible. So yeah, I'm very happy with how this is looking so far. I have no complaints about the pattern or anything. The deadline for this test knit is like the beginning of October, I think. So it wouldn't surprise me if this pattern is out before Christmas. I think it's going to be a really, really stunning winter knit. It's going to be so cozy. And like I say, I can see myself wearing this not only with these lovely brown trousers, brown jeans that I have now, but I can also see myself wearing this like just with leggings. I could wear it with a skirt or whatever. I think it's going to be a really versatile piece in my wardrobe. And honestly, I just can't wait to have it to wear. I think it's an absolutely stunning design. And yeah, I'm just really excited for it. I don't have anything like it in my wardrobe. So yes, very much looking forward to having this finished. And yeah, hopefully it won't take me too long because it is quite a loose gauge. It's like 18 stitches per 10 centimeters. So yeah, I don't think it's going to take me too long at all. So yeah, that is my Edale test so far. I cast this on August the 21st, and so it has currently been on my needles for 16 days. So also not taken me too long to get to this point really either. So that is everything that I have to share knitting wise. I'm just going to keep this on now. I'll probably go and film some B-roll or something for Instagram or whatever in it once I've finished chatting to you guys. But yeah, that is everything I have knitting wise for today. Thank you so much for choosing to listen to me waffle on about my knitting. I apologize that this video is a little bit later than it usually is. Life just kind of caught up with me last week, but now that my daughter is back at school and everything's kind of calmed down a little bit, hopefully I should be able to get back to my regular filming schedule. I am going to continue posting podcasts every 2 weeks. I just feel like it's a little bit easier for me to make some progress on my projects and get a little bit more done, and also be able to get some other videos out when I want to, like other bits and bobs, without feeling too stressed about filming schedules and things like that. And so yeah, going to continue with the podcast every 2 weeks. They seem to be like performing better on YouTube as well, going up every 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm just going to stick to that. It's a little bit more convenient for me. They seem to be performing better on YouTube, and hopefully you guys like them still every 2 weeks. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But other than that, I think that's pretty much everything. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, I would love to know what you guys are working on, what patterns you've got lined up for autumn or spring, and yeah, what you're working on at the moment. And I will catch up with you all in a couple of weeks with another podcast. Happy making!